All right, here we go. So, welcome to the CreatorCon Call for Content webinar. I'm Jason, and I'm joined by Chuck and Lauren, and we're going to talk a little bit about CreatorCon and what the Call for Content is. So, our agenda today: what is CreatorCon? What's the Call for Content? Who attends? How can you participate? And then we'll have talk with our some of our MVP speaker alums, and then open up for questions. So let's let's visit the agenda real quick.
Flip side. There we go.
There we go. Yeah.
Sorry.
And then let's flip over to what is CreatorCon.
Awesome.
So these are some of our pictures from last year. CreatorCon, we had our Devi's App of the Year awards. We've got some fun stuff on the show floor. You can see Chuck and Lauren running our keynote. And then we've got sessions, labs, presentations. So let's go to the next slide. So CreatorCon is a conference within knowledge for developers and practitioners, everybody who actually makes ServiceNow happen in their organization. We explore, creative ways to use the Now platform, learning from your peers and getting enabled on the latest features. And this is for admins, developers, architects, anybody who actually builds and customizes on the ServiceNow platform. So what does that mean for all you here watching? Go to the next slide. Sorry. Okay. So, I'm on the West Coast and I'm under caffeinated.
Okay.
Let's talk about the content. Chuck, we've got a couple of our MVP alums to talk about what it's like to submit and speak at CreatorCon.
We'll bring them in just a second. We just want to give you some idea of things. If you're new and you've never presented in a venue like this, this is not that hard. It's pretty low bar. You're talking about things you already know, things you've already experienced. Look towards your projects you've done in the last year or two. Look towards those implementations, those exercises, maybe even something you found fascinating at a developer meetup, for example. You went, I want to learn more about that. And you go and explore it and you play with it on your PDI. You've got experience. You've got something unique that you can share with others. Don't think that, everybody knows this. I was just at the Phoenix Developer Meetup last night and somebody mentioned something about, how long has that been in the platform? I said, basically forever. How come nobody knows about this? I said, you just inspired me to make a new video. But aside from that, it might be a 15-minute presentation. So what we want from you, this is the call for content. You don't have to have the full presentation fleshed out. A title, a creative title, an abstract, just a short description, 2-3 lines about what it is you plan to present, and then the amount of time. We've got 15, 30, and 60-minute increments. So pick which one you think you can fill the best. Everybody thinks, I'll do a 60-minute, then I'll be on stage. If you are at that 60 minutes, you better have a lot of content that is always on. And tip from probably one of the MVPs, you will always take longer than you think you do. I rehearsed this 4 times at home and it took me 15 minutes and suddenly you're halfway through your slides and it's 15 minutes. So it always takes longer in real person. Take it from me. I've been presenting for over 40 years. It always takes longer in real person. So with that, I'd like to bring in our MVPs. These are 2 people that have spoken at Knowledge in the past and get their insights to what they talked about and tips for people who may be thinking about this. It is a great way to elevate your brand. It is a great way to be seen as an authority in the ecosystem. It's a great way just to be present. Lauren, any words of inspiration before we bring in our guests?
So there are a couple of intro tips that I always like to give to people that are interested in presenting. The first is you don't have to do it by yourself. One of the first times I ever presented at Knowledge was because Dave Slusher needed a co-presenter. So he was by far the master of everything. But I had never presented at all. So being his kind of assistant and co-presenter eased me into the process. And it was a lot less abrupt than just diving headfirst. So if you have any hesitancy, splitting the burden of responsibility between another qualified peer is a great way to do it. Another point is that if you think a piece of technology is like the hot ticket item of the summer, or at that time, the spring, you're probably correct, which means a lot of people are probably going to be submitting things on that topic.
Gen AI.
Yeah, I didn't want to point out, but that's probably going to be it.
Yeah, no, say Gen AI. Everybody's going to be submitting something on Gen AI, and if you're super passionate about Gen AI, by all means. But if you're just trying to do it because you think that's what we're looking for,
sometimes niching down is the best way to get accepted, right? So especially if it's something that you're already really passionate about. Like if you're really passionate about specific types of business rules and you need to talk about why they're important, that would be, phenomenal. And I think the last piece of information is that you have to sell your topic, right? As someone that used to be on the sales team, selling is part of everything. And so if you're looking to catch people's eye, really have fun with creating an eye-catching title. I oftentimes referenced like popular YouTubers and things like that with regards to creating basically a clickable title, something that someone would add to their agenda, because that's what we will also be looking to build out the entire catalog with. So those are my 3 points.
Good stuff. Good stuff. And, I don't want to steal too much thunder. I'm sure they're going to have lots of words of wisdom. So let's bring in Sharon and Harneet. Welcome. Thank you for presenting in the past. And let's do a quick little introduction. Harneet, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Chuck, and thanks everyone for having me here. So my name is Harneet. I'm a certified technical architect and I work with Accenture. I was selected as an MVP last year as well, and I was for the first time I presented at Knowledge last year. So that's me.
And Sharon?
I am Sharon Barnes. I am a ServiceNow developer at Novant Health, and I've been in the ServiceNow ecosystem for 3 years, and I've also had the privilege of presenting for 3 different years at Knowledge, including that virtual one that first year.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And I just want to ask, let's start with Sharon. What are some of the benefits that you've seen in your career by presenting at Knowledge?
So by presenting at Knowledge, it gave me an opportunity, first and foremost, to get a ticket to Knowledge. So that was, I'm going to be blunt. That is the first reason that I was like, I'll do that because it gets me there. But once I was there, I had the ability to make connections, meet the people who are doing the cutting edge development, learn and just get a sense of what's not just hot and new, but also what's so well fleshed out and well known, and just get all of those different perspectives and build a great network that has helped me grow as a developer. Mm-hmm. So that's what I love about it. Plus, it's the rock concert of developers.
I love that. We're going to have to start using that one, Lauren.
Yeah, that's great.
I very much enjoy.
Harneet, what is something you learned about making a good submission? What is it that you obviously got selected, mm-hmm. and part of that is having a good title and abstract. What sort of advice do you have for people about that?
I think the first thing that really helped me was to join the office hours, because I had plenty of ideas. I mean, as we were just discussing about this earlier, there are things that you do in your organization or as your pet projects day to day, but what exactly makes a good presentation at Knowledge is the key. So I came up with 5 different ideas that I could present. I brought them to the office hours. I got them refined, or say ironed out with Jason and all the developer advocates. I think that was the key. I think that really helped me to decide what that title would be and how do I present it as well. There were a lot of good suggestions given. How do I present it really well, or what should the slides be containing and stuff like that. So that really helped me to make that presentation, say 95% perfect.
That's a great idea. And if you missed that slide we let leak a minute ago,
We'll come back to it.
we'll get back to it. We have blocks of time specifically dedicated to helping you craft your title and abstract. You can show up and just say, I have an idea. You know, we had people, I think it was last year, that didn't have an idea, and they were picking up ideas off the cutting room floor. So Harneet said he had 5 ideas. And Jason and I were coming up with crazy ideas, and somebody ran with one. I said, we should do a presentation on blah, blah, blah. Ha, 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 ha. And they went, that's actually a pretty good idea. I think I'll do that. And so sometimes you can show up, we got 8 or 10 of these sessions for an hour or so. Jason will be there, and Lauren will be there, and I'll be there. We've got some MVPs that'll be there. We've got experts that can help you fine tune that to give you the best possible chance of being selected as a presenter. You don't have to do this. If you've got experience and you've got a marketing talent, you know, it's optional. It's not a have to, but it certainly doesn't hurt. Now, Sharon, what lessons have you learned from the submission process in the past?
My observations of the submission process and what I've learned from it is the snazzy title is really important. I'm going to echo what you said earlier, Lauren, because it's the truth. My very first year, I was just like, the only thing I know is that I went from being a non-ServiceNow person or knowing anything about development, and I learned things, and that got me to have a job as a developer. And I was like, that's not worth talking about. And as I go through and got some suggestions for titles, it ended up coming to a very real and useful talk about just how do you elevate minorities? How do you elevate women by changing careers and eliminating those barriers? And so one of the things I have is just don't talk yourself out of talking. Don't talk yourself out of trying, because for me, that's the really easy thing to do. And I have lots of good people who say, do it anyways. But that's key. Use those creator office hours and find the title that's clickable. And with that, talk about what you know and what you love, because that's going to be what you want to put your time into.
Bring your passion. Absolutely.
Yes. That actually brings up an interesting question. As like a side question, you plugged, that because they'll take the, basically like what you will enjoy doing for the amount of time. Do you know on average how long it took to actually build out your content? Just so that people have a realistic expectation of what that's like.
As a 3-time speaker.
Yeah.
So for doing the talks that are like 30 minutes or 15 minutes, those probably took me a couple days of thinking through, maybe a couple hours of putting together the slideshow.
Yeah.
And I will fess up to doing a ridiculous amount of rehearsal.
Good.
You said like 4 rehearsals, and I was like, you mean 40 rehearsals?
Wow.
But that's my personality type. I over rehearse. For the lab that I did, that was huge. I would say that was easily at least 2 to 3 weeks of extra solid work. And I was very grateful that I had co-presenters on that so that we could all pitch in and help with that. But the lab was very fun, very rewarding, because when I was in the room, seeing the people get it and have fun getting the concepts, that was amazing. Yeah. But there were moments while building that content that I was like, oh my gosh, what have I done?
I love Sean's comment here. Quantify the value of your title. And a quick example of that I've seen is the 5 things I learned before translating my instance, or top 10 tips for blah, 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 service portal widgets. Just some way to add some value to the title that will catch eyes. Jason, did you have any others that you had some examples that you've seen in the past that worked really well?
Yeah, well, I mean, things that worked well and things that like don't work well. Like, I mean, I always harp on this because it was I don't know, years ago now, but it's kind of heartbreaking. Somebody had this like great session. I, help work them through it, but it had like a really boring title. It was like literally just like the name of a feature. And their abstract was, in this session, I'm going to talk about feature name. And like their actual presentation was like really good, but the attendance numbers were really low because you couldn't see the passion, you couldn't see what it was really going to be about, what you're going to learn from, right? So like I'll beat up on Gen AI, right? If your title's Gen AI, there's going to be a bunch of things in Gen AI, like what makes your session stand out about Gen AI, or if it's me, it's metric based, because that's my favorite obscure ServiceNow feature.
And don't try to game the system by going, this is the best Gen AI session as your title.
Yeah. So I mean, really, like, your passion really shines through, right? Like, I mean, we've all been attendees at conferences as well. So you got to have a good title to get people to read your abstract, and you got to have a good abstract to get people to attend your session. So really, it's passion. Like we keep saying that, but like that is what makes your session compelling.
And if you are struggling with a title, and we keep talking about Gen AI as a subject matter, I mean, one thing that's helped even our marketing team internally is using Chat GPT for spitballing things. So you can say, I'm doing a lab on X, make it like a catchy YouTube title. See what comes out. You never know. Even if it's like halfway there, at least it's a good idea, maybe. You never know.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Do it a couple times and then have your friends vote on which one's best.
There you go.
Right. Yeah. Get a small sample focus group of your own. There's plenty of people. And again, show up to the office hours. We can give some input on that. Remember, this is a competition. You're competing to get selected. You've got to get us to recognize that sounds interesting. That's something that I would attend. And then you've got to get, when you've been selected and you've built it out, you're competing for the conference attendees to come to your session.
Correct.
So there's two levels to this. I mean, it's the same material, but you want to be thinking, if I were a conference attendee, would I pick something like this among the competing things? Because there's going to be multiple things happening in your time slot. They could go to your session. They could go to this one on Flow Designer. They could go to this one on how to build an app. They could go to this one on source control. Why would they pick yours? So you've got to really, be thinking about that all the time.
And we're judging with our audience hats on. So like, an outline of what you're going to talk about, like that, you may feel like that may communicate more to us about what you plan to talk about, but is that what's going to get the audience in the door? And we're wearing our attendee hats.
And we got another great tip: invite the audience with your title.
Yeah,
that's an intriguing. There's lots of different ways to do this that you can bring that up.
Think of it this way too: if your session is in like the 5th floor of the Venetian in the back corner, what would make people still come?
They don't know it's there until they have to make that walk, though.
True. Good point.
It's room 508K. Like, oh. Any other questions or tips for MVPs? Great information, by the way. Lauren, Jason?
Well, one thing I wanted to ask Harneet as well. So we got Sharon's point of view on how much time she spent. Did it vary a lot on your end as well, or did that sound pretty similar?
So Lauren, I've done my CTA program, so it helps to do, I mean, we've done these final presentations there as well. So sort of followed the same process here. I had completed my CTA about in September, October last year, and the presentation, I mean, the selection started in December and I was presenting in May. So it was still the same aspect that I followed there. So I created the title slides first. I had to make sure that the slides are not too many so that people just get bored looking at the slides. I just kept 3 or 4 slides. Just got really good numbers, flashy numbers on the screens, and I talked about those numbers as I was talking so that people actually look at me when I'm talking on the presentation. And I came up with a very interesting topic. And I think, Lauren, as you were mentioning earlier, what if your session is in one of the corners in the Venetian and people just have to walk a lot to just listen to it? I guess it was, for mine was on the 2nd floor. I still had a full house, about 250 people joined that session. The way I made that abstract, I think with everybody's inputs, was to keep it very intriguing. It was very much specific to the developers and architects. How do you design an integration which is performance-wise, it's really good, and you import 1 million records into your platform and then process them as well. So this was my topic. So 1 million records, processing intensive system integration design. How do you prepare that? And yeah, so to me, preparing the whole deck took me 4 days, including adding the slides, the numbers onto it, and then the rehearsals obviously took more than, I guess, 15 days. So just keep rehearsing it. I was even rehearsing it the day before in the hotel before my presentation was, because it was my first presentation at Knowledge. So I had to make sure it goes great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We'll have separate office hours if you are selected as a presenter.
True.
For fine-tuning your presentation, engaging the audience. All of that is coming. We wanted to focus this one really on how to
Catch the eye.
how to put in a submission. It's really not that hard. You spend some time on your morning walk or at the gym or something, just noodle over. I know I want to talk about Decision Builder, for example. How can I make that interesting? How can I capture someone's attention? Save days of development by abstracting your logic. Like, oh, really? Tell me more. I want to save days. There's something intrinsic about think as a developer, what would interest me? What would capture my attention? Is it saving time? Is it building faster? Is it those are the things that motivate you. And if you can capture that essence in your title and in your abstract, that's gold.
One thing I also saw, and this might be a me thing, so please correct me if it's like, no, Lauren, that's your personal preference. A piece of advice I once received was, unless your topic is directly tied to a real life use case, like the success your business has had or a specific solution that exists in real life, right? Make the use case fun, right? I would always look for kind of the wild use cases. Like, I know last year Maria Gabriella did one was that was the one that you did as well, Sharon, right?
Tamagotchi one thing, yeah.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Like, that idea, it's so eye-catching. In addition, I think Dan Grady did one which was on performance analytics, but it was about basketball scores, and that was to help illustrate the value of performance analytics, but it stands out because you're like, basketball, like, why is ServiceNow being used with basketball? So like I said, unless it's directly tied to a specific real life use case of like, this is this company's success and this is how we got it, have fun with it. It's always a fun ride.
And actually, I'm going to go back to Harneet's session from last year, right? Like, what was really interesting about it was like pumping 1 million records through performantly. The actual use case he was doing that in was much less important than the technology of how to do it, because chances of somebody having that exact use case, pretty low. Chances of somebody else needing to do like a high volume integration, really high. So, make it fun, but also, kind of focus on the broad. And really that kind of sums up to like, don't get overly specific on the use case, because that's probably much more unique to you.
Yes.
How you did it, that's the how, right? Everybody's coming to learn. And
if you're following your passion, whether it's UI builder, service portal, integrations, whatever, you're going to find a way to share that enthusiasm, to share that fun with the audience. And it will come out in your presentation. It will come out in your abstract. But again, run it by us. We're happy to help. We're here to help. And that's a great transition to our office hours slide.
Okay.
Yes. All right. All right. So now no longer a sneak preview. So our call for content is opening on October 23rd, and it runs through November 13th. This link we keep blasting out. DevLink SNCC 24 CFC. That is where all of our links are. How to submit. You'll see us repeating some of the tips and tricks for submission. Links to our office hours. So our first office hour is next Monday, and we've got them kind of arranged so that no matter where you are, it's hopefully at a somewhat not inconvenient time for you. And just kind of like the big ones, we keep talking about, talk about what you're passionate about. We are asking everybody to decide on the length this year.
Nice.
When in doubt, go shorter, right? Like it's really hard to be super compelling and on point for 60 minutes. Without like a very in-depth demo that everybody's going to be super engaged in. And again, use the office hours. We invited Sharon and Harneet here because they did like an amazing job with their office out using the office hours to polish their submissions, and it paid off because they ended up being speakers again. So with that, let's we got a little bit of time left. Let's throw this out for any kind of questions from folks.
We've got people marking it on their agenda.
Love to see that.
Confirmation that the office hours have been helpful.
One question I have, and this popped up naturally in a conversation Chuck and I were having yesterday, Jason, because one of the advantages of this program is a ticket to knowledge. Are there any differences that government employees or things like that need to take with regards to applying?
That is a really good question, and ultimately, like licensing questions, it's going to boil down to your specific agency and organization. Federal agencies have a variety of different rules based on where they are, and state agencies have another set of rules. So like at all levels. So I can't actually. I'm a former government employee, and I can't actually make a good statement on what to expect. I can tell you what, if you were a state of Washington person, what you could maybe do, but yeah, definitely. Generally, government employees have been able to accept that knowledge ticket.
But be mindful of it. Be mindful that that's you should double check on your side as well.
Yeah. So I mean, by and large. Government employees do get that ticket, but there are other considerations that you should definitely kind of figure out for your organization.
One question that Drew has is how to decide on length. How can you know from the beginning maybe what would be appropriate lengthwise?
Yeah. So if you've got something that's kind of like a quick hit, top 5 things I wish I knew before. That's going to be a kind of a 15-minute session. If you're doing sort of like, quick hits of information for people. And some of those I've actually seen very successfully backed up with like blogs for in-depth. Like if you want to go deeper, here are the top 5 things, and here's the short link to the expanded version. In fact, Sharon, I think you did that one year. Did you? No. Anyway, then 30 minutes, that's like when you're demoing something, right? Like, showing off something you built. You really want to, like, at a 30-minute session, you want to be much more demo than slideware. By and large, watching a bunch of slides gets really boring. And it's about 3 minutes a slide. So a 15-minute presentation is not that many slides. But 30 minutes, you're showing off something you built. You're showing how you built it. 60 minutes would be a very deep dive. If you have something that is like super, super technical, I built my own search engine on ServiceNow, and here's how I did it, right? That's something that you're going to have to show off a lot of pieces in order to kind of be a full, compelling story. But again, when in doubt, kind of go for the shorter version of it. It's not locked in stone. If you say I'm going to do this 30-minute demo and it starts, you've got a lot of good material, we can bump that up. Like what you're communicating in this is really kind of like your target. And people want to see what you built. They don't want to see slides. So.
Yeah, unless, of course, it's an abstract concept. Like, let me show you the data model behind this and how the tables all relate to each other. That's going to be something you want to have picked up,
100%,
visually.
like
Yeah.
anything architecture, right? You can't really show an architecture in a demo. Like that needs diagrams.
Maybe the ERD diagram. In case you missed it, the dates for submission are October 23rd through November 13th. So pretty small window. We're doing this ahead of time to give you time to think about that so you can be ready to submit as soon as that opens up on the 23rd, or if you need a day to think about it as well. Again, office hours open up a week before that. So start thinking about those ideas and then you'll be ready to submit. And they do overlap. So you could be thinking about it and submit as late as the 13th. So we've got some runway here. Just wanted to give you a little bit of info, and hopefully you're not watching this after November 13th. But we wish you the best, and we'll see you at Knowledge.
Start thinking about your CreatorCon 2025 submission.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing that we got when we were talking to the Devies winner. As you work on these projects all year long, think about, would this be interesting to share? And somebody even mentioned it in the chat. Practice it at Snugs or developer meetups and see if there's interest in that topic. So you can do these small informal presentations to 6, 12, 25 people and get that experience that can then lend you to the bigger stage at Knowledge. So that's not a bad strategy either.
I have a question to direct to Sharon and Harneet, if that's okay. Did either one of you, when you so sometimes a question I've gotten with relation to our content, because it gets you a ticket to Knowledge, were either of you ever part of a conversation with a boss where they maybe initially said no to Knowledge and you got accepted with the ticket? Is there any time you've had to have the conversation of like, well, because I have the ticket, can you compromise on carrying like the travel costs? Are there any types of conversations that you have advice for the people that might be negotiating their trip to Knowledge? If not, that's okay.
Yeah, Lauren, I think I had that conversation well early in advance as soon as my Knowledge session was accepted, and I also become a developer MVP. So that also gave me a ticket directly to Knowledge. So both of those reasons combined, I presented it to the leadership. Again, we were short on the people coming into the Knowledge from our unit, but then again, I made the way because of these two things. So presenting at Knowledge and being an MVP. So both of those things really helped me to get that in. But yeah, it was easy to convince them. Nice. But I have heard that it is a bit difficult a lot of times for people who in different localities, they're not able to convince their leadership to get into Knowledge just based on a session. So, but it didn't happen for me.
I've had a similar experience at a previous job. I was selected as a speaker for a different conference, and I took personal funds to do the travel, do the hotel, and go there because I had basically the free pass because I was selected as a speaker. Very similar situation. I found that so valuable as a career investment that it led to other things and other opportunities. So don't overlook the personal value on this. If the company funds it, great. If you get selected as a speaker and you have to take it out of your wallet, it is well worth it every time. That's
good to know. Well, that's another question then for our MVPs. How has the experience of having been a speaker helped career-wise, like afterward? Was there any like specific thing that happened afterward that made it like seem really worth it?
For me, I think it has definitely aided in creating connections. It has aided in developing my skills. And I haven't necessarily gone with the intention of looking for a new opportunity when I went there, but I know that some of the connections that I made did lead me eventually to, I would really like to work with this person someday.
That's really
cool.
And
when their job or their company had an opportunity, I applied because I knew the people at that team, and it was a group I cared about and a goal or a mission that their company had that got me excited as well.
That's awesome.
I'm going to back that up with yes, and it's not what you know. You could be the smartest person in the room, and if nobody knows it, it doesn't do your career any good. It's not who you know, it's who knows what you know. So by sharing what you know, you are increasing your career opportunities. You don't know where your next opportunity is going to come from. It may be somebody in that audience that's going, you know, Sharon really knows her stuff on this topic. She'd be great on my team.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from.
It made the interview at those places much easier when they had seen me on stage. Yes.
You now have another level up on the competition that's applying for that same role. So think about that.
Yeah, I think Ruth's got a really good point there. So your resume gets shortlisted quite quickly if you've got that right on your title on your resume or on your LinkedIn profile.
True.
Yeah.
Will the con? Oh, I guess never mind. I forgot my question. It flew out of my mind.
I was looking in the chat. Paul did have a question about the office hours, and you don't have to sign up for the office hours. They are all just drop in, and you do not need to be there right at the start of office hours. You can like drop in midway through or 10 minutes before the end if you have a short question or you got a meeting that ran late. And you don't need to stay for the whole time. So we're just there to answer questions and help you polish your submission ideas.
Good stuff. I think we've covered all the bases, and we're ready to wish everybody the best of luck, October 23rd through November 13th.
Good luck, everybody.
Thanks, Sharon and Harneet. And
thank you, everybody.
for watching. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.